This is Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and we're back with UFC Fight Night Chiesa versus Magny. We'll be going down the entire card, giving you our thoughts and predictions, and we'll start with Victoria Leonardo versus Manon Fiorot. Interesting matchup. We've got Victoria coming in off of a pretty decent performance in the Contender Series, beating up Chelsea Hackett, who was a undefeated kickboxer, fighting another kickboxer in the French Fiorot. The matchup is really grappler versus striker. I saw some tape on Manon. I wasn't too impressed. She's a little spastic on the feet for a kickboxer. She reminds me a little bit of Holly Holm, but just not as well polished and refined. There is a possibility for a upset here because I see Victoria coming in here, taking the ass beating like she took in the Contender Series fight, and then just drowning the French fighter. So I will go with the underdog in this case. So I've got Leonardo to win via TKO second round.
I agree. I think Leonardo has the definite. The odds are actually, I think, spot on for what this. Actually, no, I shouldn't say spot on. The odds are spot on to cash in on this, rather, with Leonardo being the underdog. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I guess there must be some money coming in on Fioro. Um, I don't know, maybe just due to a record or I don't know. Not really sure why
Well,
she's the favorite.
she is the bigger girl. She's got what 2 inches of height on her, and she's fought at a higher weight class, and of course all that kickboxing experience. So I get it, but it's a different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, with the grappler height, and being a straight kickboxer isn't really going to help her here. She's probably going to get either pushed to the cage or just taken down and held down for a decision win. But I do see Leonardo coming away with the win. Decision, nothing crazy.
Our next matchup takes place at bantamweight. We've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Sergey Morozov, and very interesting matchup because with the name Nurmagomedov, you're automatically a what minus 200, and in this matchup, it's not quite listing the odds here, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a ridiculous amount for Umar coming in against Sergey. After watching some tape, I understand why Nurmagomedov is going to be the favorite. He looks pretty good. He's primarily a striker, but he does mix in the takedowns. He does get submissions. So he's a very exciting fighter coming in, especially for a bantamweight. Sergey, on the other hand, very similar. He throws spinning attacks. He goes for takedowns. This will be a really close matchup. It's going to be a pretty good test for Umar to come in here versus a pretty good opponent, right? Sergey has fought some pretty good competition at M1, so I do see this being closer. The odds, again, I'm not sure what they are, but I'm not going to agree with them. I will go with Nurmagomedov. I think he's going to pull it off. I think he's going to have a little bit more diversity in his attack, but it will be definitely a closer fight. So I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov by decision.
I agree. I think despite the name bias, I think Nurmagomedov is going to have what it takes to edge out Sergey. This is definitely going to go over the 2.5 rounds. It's going to go to distance. With these guys having um, similar styles, I think it's going to be who presses the action more, you know whoever takes a step, whoever decides to take a step or two back. Uh, I think in the striking exchange is definitely going to have the tougher time. So whoever's pressing forward, which I think Nurmagomedov is going to be pressing forward, is going to have the advantage. They do have similar um, height and reach, I believe. Um, yeah, I don't think. I think it lists a 2 inch height advantage for Nurmagomedov, but these things are subjective. I mean, once they weigh in, I think. Um, yeah, I don't think it's going to matter in this fight since I anticipate them being fairly similar. Um, But yeah, looks like the um, lesser known Nurmagomedov, which I'm pretty sure he's related to Khabib in some way.
I think they're cousins.
Uh,
I'm pretty sure they're cousins.
yeah, they're all cousins.
Yeah, everyone's a
Um,
cousin. All right.
oh yeah, especially the fact that they're fighting in Dubai. I'm pretty sure the judges are going to have a soft spot for Nurmagomedov.
They already have the scorecards listed out for him.
Pretty much, they're just going to hand it to the judge and say, "Hey, here, just sign your name and you'll be good."
Our next matchup takes place in the lightweight division. We've got Mike Davis versus Mason Jones. Mason Jones making his UFC debut after capturing double gold in Cage Warriors. It's a very interesting matchup. The odds are interesting, really. We've got Mason coming in as a plus 155 and Davis at a minus 195. And I'm a little baffled because I really would have thought that Mason Jones would have been a higher favorite at this point because of those reasons and other reasons, of course. I think I'm going to take a shot on Mason Jones. For one, he's fought pretty good competition in Cage Warriors. He's fought at a higher weight class at 170 and captured gold. I like his style. He can get a little reckless, but he is a black belt in judo and jujitsu. Reading his bio, he has a 3-0 pro boxing record. As for Mike Davis, he is primarily a boxer, right? The thing that I don't really like about Mike Davis, despite him having pretty good hands, is that every time he's fought a higher level of competition, he hasn't been able to beat that test. He lost to Sodiq Youssef, beat beat a nobody, lost to Gilbert Burns, and then he beat a guy in Thomas Gifford. And I think that's the main reason why his line is so high is because he beat the crap out of some guy who doesn't belong in the UFC. He did look impressive there, but again, he couldn't get him out of there as soon as he could. I know partly because of the referee wouldn't stop the fight, but no, I don't think him beating a Thomas Gifford gives him the right to be a nearly minus 200. I like Mason Jones in this situation, so I'll be taking the underdog money and going with him to win by, I'm going to say, second round submission.
I agree with taking a shot with Mason Jones. I think there's probably just a recency bias with Davis being the favorite, being that he does have his last fight. He did win his last fight in the UFC, so I guess there's some recency bias there. But with Jones being the younger fighter and I think probably having fought and beat better opponents, I think this is a pretty good spot to take a shot at the underdog again. Um, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to go. Really, I think all fights are going to go the distance. It's a surprise to me when they don't. So I'm going to say, sure, this is going to go the distance.
Our next matchup takes place in bantamweight. We've got Jerome the Renegade Rivera versus the younger brother, I believe, Francisco Figueiredo, Davison's brother. I don't know who's older. Interesting matchup. We've got the Figueiredo brother coming in here as a minus 140. Jerome Rivera coming in at a plus 110. Jerome, the younger fighter, the taller fighter, the longer fighter, coming in against the lesser, in my opinion, Figueiredo. The reason I say that is I was watching tape on him. I didn't know too much about Francisco Figueiredo, so I decided to watch some tape on him. And as I was explaining to you earlier, it's comparing the two. It's like you've got the original Street Fighter 2 in Francisco, and Davison is the Street Fighter 2 Turbo hyper fighting because they fight very similar, but just Francisco's a little slower and just takes too many punches. I think the name value is what's causing this to be an interesting line development. That, and I would say because Jerome did get knocked out by Tyson Nam, I will say Tyson Nam more than likely would beat Francisco Figueiredo. If Jerome Rivera could keep it at distance, use his long strikes, use his height and reach advantage, I think he can pull off a decision. it's a tough one for me, really, because Francisco, he does have power. He can knock out Jerome, but he kind of lacks that ability to cut off the cage that his brother does. So it's an interesting thing to think about because they could have been training on that. They do have a fighter that they can easily beat. I do think Francisco at one point can beat Jerome, but I'm not sure about this point. I will take a shot on the underdog in Jerome. I think he's going to keep the distance and just kind of batter up Francisco in the outside. I think Francisco will throw looping punches. He'll try to do that karate based style, his hands low and throw the straight left, but I don't think it's going to connect on Jerome. I think he's going to be too long, use his kicks. So I'll go with Jerome to win by decision.
Funny enough, I tend to agree. My only real concern with Jerome is that he did get knocked out 3 months ago and change by Tyson Man. So I don't know if his brains have unscrambled since then. I guess only he knows how bad that knockout was. But I don't see at least this Figueiredo knocking him out in the same fashion or any sort of fashion. I mean, as long as I guess he can avoid brawl, um, I think Jerome should pull off the decision here, unless he decides to catch him in a up against the cage in a TKO or submission or something. But I see Jerome pulling off maybe 29-28 decision here. Like I said, as long as he can avoid getting slept, which is really my only concern at this point.
All right, next matchup at it says light heavyweight, but I thought it would be at middleweight. We've got Dalcha champion versus Marcus Perez. We've got Marcus Perez just recently losing by knockout to Dricus Duplessis. I bet Marcus in that one, and he looked good, but then he just did something dumb, as he tends to do, and then he gets knocked out. As for Dalcha, I think this is a prime spot for him to show people why he should be feared and why his nickname is champion. I think he'll come in here, use his strength and his power, and then just catch Marcus Perez. Marcus does tend to get a little wild in there, and in those situations, I think Dalcha is going to capitalize and just knock him out. Again, I'm not positive if it's at light heavyweight. I really thought it would have been at middleweight just because he recently dropped down Dalcha, that is, to fight Baby K Roberson, but of course that didn't go through. So it might be at light heavyweight. I guess the UFC card, the UFC website says it's at middleweight, so I'm going to go with what they say. So at middleweight, still Dalcha is going to knock him out. I think he'll be faster. I think he did make weight, or at least look like he made weight during the weigh-ins before the fight was canceled. So I'll go with Dalcha to win by knockout first round.
Yeah, oddly enough, I actually thought Perez was older than Dalcha, but it looks like Dalcha has 5 years of seniority on Perez. But despite that, yeah, Perez, man, he is not reliable whatsoever. I think Dalcha's going to come in here and just, I don't know if he's going to ragdoll him, but I think he's definitely going to have the power advantage as well. And for some reason, I was thinking, when I looked at Perez, for some reason, I thought of what's this guy's name? I forgot his name. His name escapes me at the moment. But yeah, no, Perez is not that whatsoever. I mean, this guy's claim to fame is, having some makeup, and just having that Dark Knight Joker makeup. Besides that, this guy doesn't. I don't think he brings anything to the table. He has, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inch 5 inch height advantage. But I don't think that's going to help him here. So I see Dalcha maybe coming away with a 29-28 victory as well.
Our next matchup takes place at the flyweight division. We've got Su Madarji versus Zaruka Adashev. These odds are ridiculous. We've got a minus 400 for Su Madarji, and Zaruka Adashev is a plus 290. Those odds say it all, really. Su Madarji, his last fight, he looked incredible. He looked very fluid, very calm, very clean. Everything that he landed, everything that he threw landed on Malcolm Gordon. But I will say this, he did look good against Malcolm Gordon, but that's Malcolm Gordon. Okay. Like he at this point does not belong in the UFC. Got my opinions on the guy who beat him last, but we'll get to that. Sumadarji looked great. At this point, I don't think he's going to lose this fight. He's longer, he's faster, he moves well, he's taller, he's got the reach advantage, and he's fighting a guy who just recently got knocked out by Tyson Nam. uh, they're really throwing Adashev into the wolves here because he fought Tyson now he's fighting Suma Darji. Adashev has to at least show us something because he didn't look too great against Tyson Nam. It was a very quick knockout. We already know what Sue can do, but what concerns me going forward at that line at minus 400 is that, yeah, he'll beat Adashev and say he beats him easily. It's not going to show me much about his overall game. We need to see a little bit more. That way, people don't get caught up on the knockouts like we just recently saw with Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, he's knocking everybody out. His line is ridiculous, comes in, gets knocked out in the first round, stuff like that. So I need to see that Sue can mix it up and that he can be put in situations where he can potentially be viewed as a top 15, top 10 talent in that division. But again, it's a pretty clear cut. I've got Sumadarji to win by I'm going to give it a little bit more respect on Adashev's second round knockout.
Funny enough, I agree. I was going to say first round might be a little might be a little quick here. I do see him, getting a TKO in the second round as well. Sue, that is, and actually to Buckley, taking a step back over to Buckley. I think his recent loss via knockout kind of shows a pattern with tall, lanky guys. He does not do well with them, so that's something to take note of in the future. When he, next time he faces kind of a tall, skinnier guy, I don't know. I guess they've got his number, man. Either that, or he took too much damage in training, or I don't know, man. But that, Cristiano Ronaldo looking guy, he hit him right on the, I wouldn't say button, but he got him.
He got
His
him at
lights
the
out.
top of the skull. Like
Yeah.
that was one of the nicest head kick knockouts I've ever seen. Just because he ducked right into it, and it was like Jesus, that's it for him.
So sucks for Buckley, but yeah, that's kind of a trend to pay attention to. Um, yeah, but I think Sue's going to take it here. If he doesn't, I don't think if he doesn't catch him in the first two rounds, I think he's probably going to take a decision. But the line is crazy here, so I mean, if you believe that much in Sumadarjan, I'd say take that line. Otherwise, look for maybe the TKO prop, or at the very least, the decision prop should help. The line come back down a bit because minus 400. That's insane for this fight.
Our next matchup is in the bantamweight division. We've got Ricky Simon versus Gaetano Pirrello. Um, Pretty much cut and dry. This is Ricky Simon's fight to lose, really. I did some tape watch on Gaetano. I don't think he belongs in the UFC. He's fought subpar competition. He's not very great, right? He's a serviceable fighter. He's got a decent record, but he's been fighting essentially bums in the outer organizations. I'm not too confident in him to come in here and outperform Ricky. Like Ricky, excellent grappling, very, very good grappling. The only thing about him at a minus 340 odds is that he can get a little too cocky in his striking, as we saw. He got knocked out by Uriah Faber in a fight that he should have easily won, fighting a 40-some-year-old Uriah Faber, and he gets knocked out. So Gaetano can come in here and potentially catch Ricky, but that's really up to Ricky if he lets that happen. I do think Ricky will come in here and use more of his wrestling. Hopefully, I would stay away from this matchup altogether, but I do have Ricky to win by decision.
Yeah, this is a tricky one with Ricky showing that he can be knocked out. He got knocked out by Rob Font. Excuse me, I should say. Yeah, no, Rob Font a year ago.
Well, he got decision by Rob Font.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he got knocked out. No, I'm sorry. He got knocked out by Faber. He got beat by Rob Font. Um, so that means his brains haven't been scrambled in a while. So yeah, so I think as long as he, as you mentioned, he needs a win here. He can't afford to have that win loss on his record. I'm pretty sure he's going to stick to, at the very least, getting a decision here. Um, as long as he doesn't get in a brawl and doesn't underestimate Gaetano too much. I think he should easily get the decision here, 30-27. But yeah, this is definitely going the distance, I feel.
Our next matchup, a fight that should have taken place this past Saturday, is now taking place on this card on Wednesday. Omari Akhmedov versus Tom Breese. So this fight initially was scheduled to happen this past Saturday, and I guess not a whole ton of information was released, but COVID issues pushed it out a couple days. I'm not sure if that's the case, to be honest with you, because they haven't really released any specific information. My concern about that is something that we brought up last week when it comes to Tom Breeze and his issues when it comes to anxiety and performance. I'm not sure if that's the case, but for those reasons, I'm kind of leaning towards Omari at this point. Just uh, just to say when it comes to a guy that is getting ready to fight and we know that he has anxiety issues, having a fight postponed and then pushed out might cause a bit of stress and a little potential doubt in his head. Tom Breeze is the favorite here, one minus 155. Omari coming in at plus 130. It's a tough matchup now. I think it's a lot closer. I initially had Tom Breeze to win because I thought his striking would have been a key factor here, keeping Omari at distance. At this point, though, if we happen to see a Tom Breeze that's tentative and it starts going backwards, I think Omari is just going to go for the legs, a single or a blast double, and get him down, beat him up, even potentially get him up against the cage and throw that looping overhand right of his. So for those reasons, I'm going to go with Omari to win by second round knockout.
Whoa, you're going for
Yeah, I changed my mind. Just had it been this Saturday, I think I would have stuck with Breeze. But again, I have no idea. I'm just going based off of what could potentially happen. This has not been confirmed, but I don't know. I don't trust Tom Breeze after a fight's been postponed. I think that might cause him to get a little doubt in his head.
yeah. I think this is a very interesting matchup. I mean, I personally think this is Tom Breeze's fight to lose. After kind of getting a good gauge of Akhmedov in his last fight. I realize now that his nickname Wolverine is probably due to his sideburns, not because he's as ferocious as an actual Wolverine. I guess in Dagestan he must get stopped all the time asking if he's Hugh Jackman or something. Um, he must be the Dagestani Hugh Jackman. I don't know. I guess that didn't make as good a nickname as the he's like, oh no, call me Wolverine, please. Anyway, um, yeah, his performance against uh, Chris Weidman, I don't know, man. That really doesn't fall too well with me, especially losing a decision to Chris Weidman. Um, yeah, it's tough. Even though Tom Breeze did beat KB Bular in his last, well, he destroyed KB Bular, and any chances of any other Indian getting uh, any sort of chance in the UFC ever again, I think went down with KB. KB had, I guess, the hopes of India on his shoulders, and I guess it was too much weight, and he crumbled like a cookie when it came down to it. He got knocked out basically by a jab. Sucks for him and for India, I guess. Um, yeah, this one's tough, man. I mean, if I foresee Omari just relentlessly trying to get that takedown, but as we saw in the Chris Weidman fight, second, third round, this guy slows down like a train off the rails, man. It's like he goes so fast that if there's a little, just like a train would, if there's it's going too fast around a corner, it'll just go off the rails and off the mountain if it's on a mountain. This is tough. If I guess if you're going with Tom Breeze, I might look at maybe the TKO prop. But going with Akhmedov, I might be going with the decision prop. It might help to. I don't know. This is a tough one. I don't really have a definitive prediction for this. It's just if I don't know, I'll really have to think about this one. And just actually, I'll have to. I might make a decision after taking a look at the weigh-ins, just to see what Breeze's body language is like, to see if he's showing a lot of confidence, see if he's ready to go versus maybe if he's a little bit hesitant or kind of low energy. You know what I mean? Because Omari is he's an animal in that first round, and yeah, man, I see this as Breeze's fight to lose. Hopefully, he worked on his takedown defense, but I guess we'll see.
The opener to our main card, we've got Lerone Murphy versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. Pretty easy matchup in this card. We've got Lerone Murphy coming in after just knocking out Ricardo Ramos, and we've got Douglas Andrade coming in after beating up Renan Barao. One's a little bit more impressive than the other. We've got Lerone coming in at a minus 275 and well deserved, and Douglas coming in at plus 220. Murphy, this is his fight, absolutely. He's going to take it any way he wants. He more than likely will knock out Douglas Silva de Andrade. Just really, if you want to play the game of what round, you can go for it. I'm going to go round number 2. I think Douglas, he will try to take in, or not take in, but he'll try to use some grappling to try to slow down Lerone Murphy. But I think Lerone is just really well rounded. He's one of the better prospects coming out of England, in my opinion. He's 9-0-1. That one coming to a draw with Zabira Tukagov, a fight that honestly he looked like he was going to lose, but he did so much in that fight that he got a split decision in Abu Dhabi. It it's mind-boggling for someone to get a split decision draw against someone named Tukagov in Abu Dhabi. So you should tell you a ton of how well he impressed those judges at that time. So I'm going to go with Lerone Murphy, round number 2 knockout. I just don't think Douglas can take it anymore. He's been knocked out by Peter Yan. Of course, Peter Yan and Leon Murphy aren't comparable, but I just see Lerone Murphy coming in here and just beating up Andrade.
I agree. I see, despite their records, I do see Lerone Murphy coming here and dominating Douglas. Douglas's previous loss to Peter actually was 2+ years ago, and then he lost to Rob Font 3+ years ago. Seems to fight well. Maybe in the last few fights have been pretty spread out. One, like he tends to fight like once a year. I don't know if it's due to injury or whatnot. But he is one other thing to note is that he is, I think, way past his prime at 35 years old, especially in this division. Being having that 6-year age difference, I think, is going to help Murphy as well. His last fight being a lot more recent as well against Ricardo Ramos, I think he's going to have a little bit of an edge there. Just like most other fights, I think this is going to go the distance, unless he can catch him in the first or second round. But yeah, I do agree with you as well. I think Lerone has what it takes to either take him out or dominate him all 3 rounds. So I might look at the TKO prop for this as well for Lerone.
Our next matchup is at flyweight 125. Tyson Nam versus Matt Schnell. Interesting matchup because, frankly, Matt Schnell, it's it's the case of how quickly will he get knocked out after looking very impressive. Because I think he's got a lot going for him. He's really good on the ground, but his striking can get him in trouble. He's got good striking, he's got good power, but he's going up against Tyson Am, one of the hardest hitters in that division. My worries are when it comes to Matt Schnell is that if he doesn't use his grappling and if he can't get the takedown, he will be forced to stand with Tyson Nam. And Matt Snell a year ago got knocked out by Pantoja in a pretty entertaining fight. But we got to see a tendency about Matt Snell is that he can have the upper hand in one aspect of the fight, but yet he gets goaded into a brawl and then he gets knocked out. Will that happen with Tyson Nam? It's a good possibility that could happen if Tyson Nam can stuff the takedowns. He'll force Matt Snell to strike with him. So it's a very close fight because I can see this going either way. Tyson Nam's a minus 330, I'm sorry, minus 135 favorite, and Matt Snell's a plus 110. It's really close, in my opinion, because we can see Matt Schnell just avoid the striking because after getting knocked out, that might completely change your game plan. I don't think I can trust Matt Schnell's chin, though. I think anything that Tyson Nam lands on him will hurt him. He'll start diving for legs, and knowing Tyson Nam, he'll avoid that like the plague. So I'm going to go with second round knockout Tyson Nam.
Yeah, I'm also riding the Nam train until it derails. His last two knockouts have been pretty. I don't want to say impressive, but they've been okay. I just don't foresee just Matt Schnell surviving this. He's been out for a year. His last knockout, I think his brains have unscrambled since he's had enough time to recover. But unfortunately, he's coming back to a guy who's knocked out his previous two opponents in the last two fights. So I don't think that works to Matt Schnell's advantage, his favor rather. And if anything, I'd say the way to go here is Tyson Nam by that TKO KO TKO prop. That'll definitely help. But this should be an entertaining fight. I don't know if it'll go past the first round. To be honest, I think Nam's going to bring it. He's having a late career surgence, and I think he's going to get his 21st victory here.
Our next matchup is Roxanne Modafferi versus Viviane Araujo at women's 125 flyweight. Uh, I don't know what to say really about this one. This is really Viviane's fight to lose because Roxanne has shown us that she can derail a hype train like nobody's business. She beat Macy Barber, Antonina Shevchenko handed her first loss, and then I don't want to say Andrea Lee because she's been getting kind of screwed by the judges a lot. But it's an interesting matchup because Viviane, she does have power in this division. She can knock out a lot of girls. The only problem that I have is that she expends a lot of energy. She bounces around. She has good movement, but she doesn't seem to have the capability or the gas tank to maintain that pace for a whole 3 rounds. And then when you mix in takedowns, it's going to tire her out. Her fight versus Jessica that's exactly what happened. Jessica had enough to avoid the power of Vivi, and then mixed in takedowns, and then edged out that decision. My concern is Roxanne Modafferi. We know the stigma when it comes to Roxanne. She's a grappler, but she's just not the best fighter in the UFC, especially even for women's MMA. She's very skilled on the ground and her striking is improving. I'm just not confident in picking her ever. Really, like even when it comes to fights that she could potentially win, I'm just not sold on it. So I'm always picking against her and she's occasionally proving me wrong. In this situation, of course, I'm going to avoid it like the plague. I'm not betting a minus 345 on Vivi in a fight where she could potentially get taken down and then rode out for the rest of the rounds and then just lose a decision after she gets exhausted beating up Roxanne Modafferi for 1.5 rounds, and she starts to slow down. It's a tough matchup, really. I will go with Vivi to win just because we have a trend with Roxanne. She wins one, she loses one, she wins one, she loses one. In this case, since she just recently beat Andrea Lee, she's due for a loss. As long as Vivienne can maintain that pace for at least 2 rounds and not get tired and just avoid takedowns, I think she's got this in the bag. I think she'll hurt Roxanne on the feet. And that poses a question. If she does hurt Roxanne on the feet, Roxanne will spam takedowns. But you know what? No, Vivienne should be able to hold her off. I think she's a stronger fighter. Should just be able to shuck her around and then just beat her up. So I'll go with Vivienne by decision, but it's not the most confident pick.
I foresee Roxanne breaking that win loss, alternating on her record. I think the line is crazy. I don't see Vivian Araujo being the one to come in and dominate Roxanne, because Roxanne has, she's it was a pretty big surprise when she beat Shevchenko. Mixie Barber, that was a fluke, thing. She did, outwork, I guess, Andrea Lee to, by a bit, not a lot. So I'm not sure where that giant, that big discrepancy in the odds is coming from. But I do see Roxanne pulling off the upset here. She'll probably get like a split decision upset. I think it's worth a shot. If you really want to sweat it, if you really want to live on the edge, I'd say take a shot on Roxanne this fight. Sprinkle a little bit on her to maybe win by that decision, because this is definitely going over. I don't see either one knocking out or submitting the other. So I should help the odds and sweeten it a little bit if she does win. I wouldn't say bet the house on Roxanne or any women's MMA fight. Not especially not these low level fights. But I don't know. Just it's a weird feeling. I got a weird feeling that Roxanne is going to pull it off, even by split decision.
Our next matchup is at light heavyweight. We've got Ike Villanueva versus Vinicius Moreira. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I got I got Ike Villanueva to win via, say, TKO round number 2. I just think he's tougher than Vinicius at this point. Like, Vinicius has lost to Paul Craig, which is great. Eric Anders, not so great. And then Alenzo Menafield, which is so-so. Um, he did beat John Allen by submission, so that does concern me, I think, a bit. Ike has lost by submission quite a bit, but I just see him being the tougher guy. Honestly, his last fight with Jordan Wright, I do think, had he not been stopped via that cut, he would have come back and knocked out Jordan Wright, because Jordan Wright can get knocked out by a gentle Breeze. And then his fight with Chase Sherman, it really cements how tough he is. He did get knocked out eventually, but he was in there and he was still throwing. So if we see Vinicius in that situation with Ike, Ike makes things dirty. He makes things really, really nasty in there. It'll be a dogfight, and I don't think Vinicius will be able to handle that. So for those reasons, I got Ike to win via second round knockout.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty brutal fight. I think Ike is pretty pissed, having lost that last fight to Jordan, not too long ago. He's going to come in here and, he's going to probably picture Jordan's face when, he's hitting Vinicius. I'm not sure what a mammut is, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna. I'm pretty sure he's gonna, he's gonna be called a mammut after he loses to Ike. And I would probably think the value is probably on the taking the prop for Ike for KO TKO, because I think he probably will get that in the first round. He's gonna. I foresee him coming out pretty aggressive, and Mammoet just not knowing what hit him. So Ike by TKO first round.
In our co-main event at welterweight, we've got Warley Alves versus Munir Lazzez. We've got Munir coming in as a minus 225. The comeback on Warley is a plus 180. And we seen what Munir can do, right? He looked really great against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but he made him look pretty amateur-esque in there. It even created a narrative of like, oh man, like that layoff really took a lot out of Abdul. He'll come back after a better training camp and look great. And he did not. He did not look great. He got knocked out in 30 seconds afterwards. So it's an interesting narrative, really. Is it that Manir is really that good? And I think he is. I really do. He looked really good in there. His striking looked really crisp, but I'm not going to overvalue him at this point. Like, I don't think he should be a minus 225 at this point, maybe like a minus 190. I don't want him to get overvalued at certain points just because he beat a guy that came back after years of a layoff and hasn't looked good after that, right? Abdul is a different guy now. As for Warley, interesting. He got submitted by Randy Brown, and then he did beat up Sergio Moraes, but a lot of people have been doing that recently. Case in point, James Krause did that, and then James Krause actually knocked out Warley Alves in that particular fight. I actually thought Warley Alves was going to easily beat lightweight to welterweight. He moved up to welterweight for this fight, and then he gets knocked out with a up knee that James Krause is super known for. You know who else does an up knee is Manir Luzez. So I do see Manir coming in here and then just beating up Warley Alves. I think Warley's taking too much punishment over his tenure in the UFC. I don't see how Manir can lose as long as he doesn't get kind of goaded into a in the pocket brawl. I think Manir is going to easily take this. His striking's a little too damn good, so I've got him to win by first round knockout.
Yeah, I think there is some recency bias for Munir, but I think it's warranted in this case. I think his striking is superior to Worley. I've never been really high on Worley myself. And after getting submitted by Randy Brown, who it's like, it's I can't think. I was trying to think of a case where it's like where the Iron Lady submitted the Venezuelan Vixen, as not too long ago, where it's like who would have expected that? That's sort of a that's how I saw Randy Brown. When Randy Brown submitted Worley, it just came out of left field. Wasn't too good for him, but I think Munir's striking is just it's out there. I think this is going to be a good showcase for him, and he's going to move on to better competition. I do. I maybe see him getting the TKO maybe in the second round. If he doesn't get in the second, then I think he's going to just light him up and for sure get the 30-27 decision.
In our main event, we've got a matchup at welterweight between Michael Maverick Chiesa and the Jamaican, the Haitian sensation Neil Magny. Never liked that nickname. He should have just gone without a nickname. Interesting matchup. We've got Neil Magny coming in on a 3-fight win streak, wins over Li Jingliang, who's looked great his last fight, Rocco Martin, and Robbie Lawler. I will say, though, for Neil Magny, all three of those fights, they're all favorable for him. As for Michael Chiesa, he's coming in here also on a 3-fight win streak with submissions over Carlos Condit. We've got a fight over Diego Sanchez, which is not saying much. And then, most importantly, a win over Rafael Dos Anjos. And I'm not really big on MMA math. I like to play around and say that it works, but it's never really a good indicator. But Rafael Dos Anjos did beat Neil Magny pretty easily, leg kicked him, dropped him down, and got the arm triangle, if I remember correctly. As for this matchup, the odds going in the favor of Neil Magny. He's a minus 140, and then Michael Chiesa coming back at a plus 110. It's a really close matchup because we've got the length advantage and the reach advantage for Neil Magny versus the wrestling prowess and submission attacks of Michael Chiesa. If Michael Chiesa gets hurt, he does tend to panic a bit, as we've seen. He got hurt by Anthony Pettis, and then he just fell into that arm triangle. He's a really good grappler though. Michael Chiesa is. He's a big guy, right? He's listed as 6'1". Not to say that I met him, but I saw him passing by once during a UFC event, and the dude was huge. I was like, how the hell does he make lightweight at that time? So I think they're going to be relatively close in height. Definitely not close in reach. Neil Magny's got an 80-inch reach compared to the 75.5 for Michael. It really comes down to how well can Neil Magny stuff a takedown. If he can stuff takedowns from Michael Chiesa and then keep him at distance, I think he can easily win this fight with just peppering shots. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think eventually Michael will get him down, and Michael has a tendency to choke out guys that are better than him. He choked out Benio Dariush, a fight that I never expected that to go that way. He has a way of just getting that rear naked choke. I think Michael has this fight in the bag, really. He's going to take down Neil Magny and then just get into position and then choke him out. Neil's been choked out numerous times by really good guys, really good black belts, and Michael is demonstrating that he's got the ability to be on that level. I don't consider him to be one of the best jujitsu players in the game because I don't think he's very good off of his back. But when he's on top of you, you better pray to God he doesn't get that choke because he's really good at getting that rear naked choke. So for those reasons, I think Michael Chiesa is going to win this fight. I will say this, if he doesn't get the submission, he's in for a long night. But I think he will get the takedown more than likely in the early rounds, like round number 2, and then just choke out Neil Magny.
Funny enough, I see this fight going along the same route. I think Magny's going to try to strike with him maybe first into the second round. But Chiesa for sure, he's going to go for that takedown. Magny is actually the one who usually tries to push the action into the cage. Try to for dirty boxing or for takedowns and such. But I don't. Well, I think he may try it with Chiesa, but Chiesa's not the guy who's gonna just allow him to, just have his way with him, either near the cage or in the middle of the octagon. I see this fight mostly taking place along the cage, and yeah, I mean this is a tough. I mean it's going to be close. Um, I actually see Chiesa getting the even a split decision with Magny. I think this is, as much as I like Magny, I think this is Chiesa's fight. I mean, it's really Magny's fight to lose, and he tends. Yeah, I mean, Magny's kind of he's hard to predict. I mean, he loses. I think he tends to lose fights that he's supposed to win, and then he wins fights that he's supposed to lose. He's been one of my favorite fighters the past few years. But I think Chiesa at 170, I think he's going to be a little bit too strong for Magny in the grappling department. I don't think he's going to I don't think he's going to dominate him, but I think he's going to have that wrestling. I think he's just going to bring that wrestling to the table. It's not going to be an overly exciting fight, unfortunately, to end the night. Will be to Chiesa. He's pretty high on himself. I'm not really a fan of his. I'm more of a fan of Magny, but I'm hoping he pulls it off. But I don't really, I'll be cheering for Magny. I just don't foresee him winning, unfortunately. Yeah, so I'll probably take Chiesa versus via decision. Even split decision. I'm hoping Magny, puts up a fight or even catches him, via submission. That'll be a pretty pleasant surprise because, like I said, I just like Chiesa. I don't know, man. I don't like the guy, but you got to respect his aggressiveness, with grappling and whatnot in the cage.
I will add, though, now that you bring it up, that Magny really does weaponize pace and cardio a lot. Michael does tend to slow down quite a bit. That's what does concern me about this matchup going past a certain level because we saw Michael kind of slow down with RDA. He was able to gut it out and get that final takedown and just control RDA at the end of the fight and get that decision. So there is a possibility. I understand why he is the favorite Magny. That is, But I still see Michael winning within those 3 rounds. I think he's just too damn strong. So great points that you brought up. And similar here, I do not like Michael Chiesa. I actually, I actually, one fighter that I disliked more than Michael Chiesa was Kevin Lee. So when they fought, it was like, well, whatever. Like
Yeah,
screw it, screw
I was
Michael
just think,
Chiesa.
yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, I was just thinking back to his fight with Lee, and that's kind of how I'm picturing him losing. I mean, I'd like for him to lose, but I'm just being realistic in the analysis of the fight itself. I mean, if Neil can if Chiesa goes for either a single or double leg, and if Neil can get him in a choke, that'd be pretty sweet. That would really make my is it night or what time is that fight?
It's
Whatever
night
time.
somewhere. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, because of Magny. Chiesa's fights they're not really my thing. I'm not really a fan of the guy, his style, his personality, I don't know, man. He just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like the dude.
well, at least he's really good to his mother. Those have been our picks for this fight night, Chiesa versus Magny. We'd appreciate it if you liked, subscribed, and shared. Leave a comment. We like to know what you guys think. We'll be coming back for the main event of this month with McGregor versus Poirier with our predictions there. So come back and join us then. And that's been us from Tiger Bomb MMA.